Inflammation has been kind of a buzzword in the conversation about health, but do you know what inflammation actually is? If I were to ask you to define inflammation, can you actually explain it? If you can, then the content of this video is probably going to be a bit of a review for you, but if you can't, then this video is made just for you. First, let's recognize the fact that inflammation comes in two flavors, acute and chronic. For today's video, the main focus will be on acute inflammation. So inflammation has always been talked about as a bad thing for the body, but the reality is it's actually a protective response to an injury in order to remove the cause of injury as well as the dead tissues that are casualties of the event. The whole process is necessary to set the stage for healing. So in other words, without inflammation, healing cannot occur. But if it's such a good thing, why are we always talking about controlling and putting out inflammation? Well, it turns out that the body sometimes goes overboard with the inflammatory response and ends up destroying everything in its path, including the healthy tissues. Just like everything else in the body, the key to health is balance. So we really don't want too little or too much of anything. When any cell or tissue in your body gets injured, acute inflammation is the immediate response to that injury. There are 5 classic local signs that let you know that inflammation is taking place. They are heat, redness, swelling, pain, and loss of function. The first 3 signs are a result of what's happening at the blood vessel level. When an injury occurs, blood vessels at the site of injury dilate and increase the blood flow. This is what gives rise to the redness and warmth seen in acute inflammation. In addition to dilation, blood vessels also become leaky, meaning that the fluid and protein structures can seep out of the blood vessel walls and get into the tissues surrounding the blood vessels. This is what gives rise to the swelling seen in acute inflammation. This leaking process also causes the red blood cells to become more concentrated, so that the blood becomes more viscous and flows slower through the site of injury. This phenomenon is known as stasis, which is important to this next key concept. So another important component of acute inflammation is the migration of white blood cells from inside the blood vessels to the surrounding tissues where the injury occurred. Remember, the job of white blood cells is to help the body fend off foreign invaders. They do so by ingesting foreign materials and debris, destroying infectious agents, and produce antibodies. When stasis of the blood occurs at the site of injury, the slowing of blood flow allows the white blood cells to accumulate in number and migrate out of the blood vessel into the surrounding tissues to do their job. Without the white blood cells, healing would be next to impossible, and infection can set in and spread throughout the body unchecked. So what happens after acute inflammation? It depends on what the initial injury is and how much collateral damage has been done. If the insult was short-lived and the injured cells can be replaced, then the result is full restoration to structural integrity and functional normalcy. However, if the damage is substantial and the cells cannot regenerate, then the result is scar formation, whereby the injured cells are replaced by generic connective tissues. This process is also known as fibrosis. If the injury is ongoing, then acute inflammation can turn into chronic inflammation. To summarize what inflammation is, it is a necessary protective response that the body elicits when an injury occurs, so that the body can contain and remove things that might get in the way of healing. It is characterized by the presence of redness, swelling, heat, pain, and loss of function. Now you know what inflammation is. Next time when you hear the word, you should be able to apply this knowledge to whatever medical situation you're dealing with. That's it for today's episode, and see you next time.